Let me tell you about two people. Both are 30 years old. Both have $50,000 saved. Both consider themselves financially responsible. The first person puts their money in a high-yield savings account earning 4% interest. They sleep well at night knowing their money is safe, FDIC insured with zero risk of loss. The second person invests their money in a diversified stock portfolio. Some months their account is up, some months it's down. They feel anxious during market dips but stay invested. Fast forward 25 years. Person 1, the safe investor, has about $133,000. Not bad, right? They never lost a dollar. Person 2 has approximately $340,000. Same starting amount, same time frame. One person has 2.5 times more wealth than the other. Now here's the question that nobody asks. Who actually played it safe? My name is Max, and I spend way too much time thinking about money. Welcome to Monkey Money, where we talk serious money with zero monkey business. If you've ever felt torn between keeping your money safe and actually growing it, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up, because what I'm about to show you will completely change how you think about financial safety. Here's what most people believe. Safe means your account balance doesn't go down. You put in $10,000, and no matter what happens, your account still shows $10,000. That feels safe. That feels responsible. But here's the truth that nobody wants to hear. If your account shows the same number while everything around you is getting more expensive, you haven't protected anything. You've just hidden the loss. Let me give you a concrete example. In 2020, the average price of a new car was about $38,000. Today, that same car costs roughly $48,000, and that's a 26% increase in 4 years. Now imagine you had $38,000 sitting in a savings account in 2020 earning 1% interest. By 2024, your account shows about $39,500. You made money, right? Except that car you could have bought for $38,000 in 2020 now costs $48,000. Your safe strategy didn't preserve your purchasing power. It destroyed it. You can no longer afford what you could afford 4 years ago, even though your account balance is higher. This is the silent wealth killer that conservative investors refuse to acknowledge: inflation. While you're watching your account balance tick up slowly, the real value of that money is shrinking. It's like storing bananas in a warm room and being proud they're still there while ignoring the fact that they're rotting. Sure, you still have the same number of bananas, but they're not worth what they used to be. Most people define safe as not losing money in their account, but the real definition should be maintaining and growing purchasing power over time. When you look at it through that lens, suddenly the risky stock portfolio that fluctuates starts looking a lot safer than the savings account that never moves. The thing that feels safe is actually dangerous, and the thing that feels dangerous is actually safe. This is the paradox that keeps most people from building real wealth. Now here's where most people get completely confused, and this confusion costs them a fortune. They think volatility and risk are the same thing. They're not even close. Volatility is just the short-term ups and downs. Your account is worth $50,000 on Monday, $48,000 on Friday, back to $51,000 the next month. Those fluctuations feel scary. But volatility isn't risk, it's just noise. Real risk is the probability that you won't achieve your long-term financial goals. Real risk is getting to age 65 and realizing you don't have enough money to retire. Real risk is watching your purchasing power erode year after year while you congratulate yourself for not experiencing volatility. Here's the paradox. By avoiding short-term volatility, you're accepting long-term risk. You're trading temporary discomfort for permanent financial damage. Let me show you how this plays out. The stock market has crashed multiple times in the past 50 years. 1987, 2000, 2008, 2020. Scary drops, double-digit percentage losses. If you stayed invested through every single one of those crashes, your average annual return over the past 50 years was still around 10%. The volatility was real. The short-term losses were real. But the long-term risk of not reaching your goals was actually lower because you stayed invested in assets that grow. Compare that to the safe approach. Your savings account never crashes. It never drops 20% in a year, but it also never comes close to beating inflation over the long term. You avoided all the volatility, but you accepted guaranteed loss of purchasing power. Which one is actually riskier? The answer depends on your time frame. Here's something that will probably make you uncomfortable. The years you spend playing it safe in your 20s and 30s are the most expensive years to waste. Not because you should be gambling, but because those are the years when compound growth does the most work, and you can't get them back. Let's say you're 25 years old with $10,000 to invest. If you put it in stocks, earning 9% annually and don't touch it until you're 65, that $10,000 becomes $314,000. But if you keep it safe in a savings account earning 3% for the first 10 years, and then move it to stocks at age 35, that same $10,000 only grows to $196,000 by age 65. You didn't lose money by playing it safe for those 10 years. Your account grew from $10,000 to $13,400, but that decision cost you $118,000 in future wealth. This is the time penalty. Every year you delay investing in growth assets is a year of compounding you can never recover. And here's the cruel irony. Playing it safe when you're young often forces you to take bigger risks when you're older. You get to 45, realize you're way behind on retirement savings, and now you're the person chasing speculative investments trying to catch up. The same person who was too conservative at 25 is now too aggressive at 45 out of desperation. Let's be clear about who benefits when you play it safe. It's not you. When you keep $50,000 in a savings account earning 4%, you're lending that money to the bank. The bank then lends it out at 7% for car loans, 8% for personal loans, 20% for credit cards. You get 4%. They make 8 to 20%. You think you're being safe. They know they're making a profit off your fear. Playing it safe hurts younger investors the most. If you're 25 and you have 40 years until retirement, you can weather any market storm. You can watch your portfolio drop 50% and still have decades for it to recover and grow. The volatility is meaningless over that time frame. But if you spend those 40 years in safe investments earning barely above inflation, you'll reach retirement with a fraction of the wealth you could have had. Here's who playing it safe actually makes sense for: someone who needs their money in the next 2 to 3 years, someone building an emergency fund, or someone saving for a down payment on a house they're buying next year. For short-term goals, absolutely, you want stability. But for long-term wealth building, playing it safe is often the riskiest strategy you can choose. So, what is real safety for long-term goals? Here's the reframe that changes everything. Real safety isn't about what your account balance shows today. It's about the probability that you'll reach your financial goals 20, 30, 40 years from now. And the data is crystal clear on what provides that type of safety. Real safety is diversification. You own thousands of companies across different sectors, different countries, different industries. When one crashes, others keep growing. This isn't exciting, but it's proven to work over every long-term period in market history. Real safety is time in the market, not timing the market. You invest consistently through good markets and bad markets. You don't try to predict when to get in and when to get out. You just stay invested and let the long-term upward trend do its work. The market has crashed many times. It has recovered 100% of the time. Real safety is owning productive assets, companies that make things, provide services, generate profits. These assets grow in value over time because the economy grows over time. Cash doesn't generate anything. It just sits there losing value to inflation. Which one sounds safer over 30 years? Here's the definition of safety that actually matters: the probability of success. A savings account has a 100% probability of not losing your principal, but it also has a near 100% probability of losing purchasing power over decades. A diversified stock portfolio has significant short-term volatility, but over 20-plus year periods, it has had a 100% success rate of generating positive real returns. Same probability of success, completely different outcomes. Now, I'm not saying all conservative investing is wrong. There are absolutely times when playing it safe is the right move. Your emergency fund should be in a high-yield savings account. That's money you might need immediately, and you cannot afford for it to be down 20% the day your car breaks down. Money you're saving for a house down payment in the next 2 years? Keep it safe. You have a specific goal with a specific timeline, but here's the key distinction. Those aren't investing decisions. Those are parking decisions. You're parking money temporarily until you need to deploy it. That's completely different from long-term wealth building. The mistake people make is treating their retirement savings like an emergency fund. They apply short-term safety thinking to long-term goals, and that's where they get destroyed. Let me paint you a picture of what playing it too safe looks like 30 years down the road. You're 65 years old. You did everything right. You never took risks. You kept your money safe. You never experienced the anxiety of watching your portfolio drop during market crashes, and now you're looking at your retirement account realizing you don't have nearly enough. You're going to have to keep working. You're going to have to drastically reduce your lifestyle. Meanwhile, your friend who invested in stocks, who experienced all those scary market crashes, who had to resist the urge to panic sell, they've got 3 times as much money as you. They get to actually retire. They get to travel. They have options. And you're sitting there thinking, I did everything right. I was responsible. I played it safe. How did I end up here? This is the psychological cost nobody talks about. The regret of being too conservative is worse than the temporary anxiety of market volatility. Because volatility is temporary. Regret is permanent. You can't go back and reinvest those years. You can't recover the compounding you missed. You just have to live with the consequences of prioritizing feeling safe over being financially successful. Here's the good news. You don't have to choose between reckless gambling and excessive caution. There's a middle path that's boring, sustainable, and historically proven to work. You build a diversified portfolio of low-cost index funds. You automate your contributions so you're investing consistently regardless of market conditions. You ignore the daily noise and the scary headlines. You check your account maybe once or twice a year just to make sure everything is still on track. This isn't sexy. You won't have stories about the amazing trade you made, but you also won't have stories about how you lost everything trying to get rich quick. You'll just have a steadily growing pile of wealth that compounds quietly in the background while you live your life. The beautiful thing about this approach is that it removes the emotional component. You're not making decisions based on fear or greed. You're following a system. And systems are what separates successful investors from everyone else. The market can be terrifying. Your emotions will tell you to do the wrong thing at the wrong time. But if you have a system that keeps you invested through the chaos, you win. Not because you're smarter, but because you removed your ability to make emotional mistakes. So here's the truth about playing it safe with your money. It's not actually safe for long-term goals. It's just comfortable. And there's a massive difference between the two. Safety means you'll reach your financial goals. Comfort means you won't feel anxious today. Most people choose comfort and call it safety. And then they wonder why they're financially struggling 30 years later. Playing it safe isn't avoiding risk. It's choosing a different type of risk. You're choosing the risk of inflation over the risk of volatility. You're choosing the risk of insufficient wealth over the risk of temporary declines. You're choosing the certainty of mediocre returns over the uncertainty of potentially great returns. These are all valid choices if you make them consciously. But most people aren't. They're just defaulting to what feels safe without understanding the long-term consequences. Here's what I want you to take away from this. If you're young and you have decades until retirement, the riskiest thing you can do is play it too safe. Your greatest asset is time, and time turns volatility into growth. Time turns scary market crashes into buying opportunities. Time turns compound interest into wealth, but only if you're actually invested in assets that grow. So stop thinking about safety as avoiding losses. Start thinking about safety as maximizing your probability of reaching your goals. Stop letting short-term comfort sabotage your long-term success. And stop treating your long-term investment money like it's an emergency fund. Invest it in productive assets that will actually grow and work for you over time. The truth is, playing it safe isn't avoiding risk. It's choosing a different one. And for most people with long-time horizons, it's choosing the wrong one. If this video changed how you think about financial safety, smash that like button and subscribe to Monkey Money for more content that cuts through the noise. Your future self is counting on the decisions you make today. Make them wisely.